Hi, Abby. I hope you've had a great week. I just wanted to check in and look over your informational pieces. Um, I wanted to point out before we really get started that I really appreciated both of your pieces. They're very interesting to read, and we'll talk about that a little bit in here. So, well, we might as well get started. Um, right here, I wrote great hook. As your reader, I was very intrigued right away, and it made me want to continue reading. Um, that's first of all a lot of instruments, but also when you mentioned like, well, which one is the hardest to learn? I immediately like, I have no idea. I play the flute, and like I think the flute's kind of hard for some of those reasons that you mentioned later, like with the breathing and um, something that's hard about the flute is that the certain fingerings are the same for different octaves, but certain ones are different. And so that can be really hard when you're first learning, is like, well, why are these different? Why are these the same? And when they are the same, how to make them hit in the different octaves. And so I was very interested to read your piece. Um, so great hook right off the bat. Right here, when you said you have to maintain good posture, stay in rhythm, watch your um, bow hold, play the correct dynamics at the correct time, run your fingers up and down the fingerboard, um, and then like eighth notes. Those are all very specific vocabulary words that you use that are very specific to your topic, to playing music, especially instruments. Um, and so, and especially, it's very specific to playing the violin. And so, I wanted to show you here, like, that was very effective. It really helps with informational writing when you use words like that. They give your reader the most information than if you use kind of general words. Um, but just in case, if you wanted to take this a little further, one of my classmates this week made a video about how to make sure you include some definitions when the work or the words that you're using are not common. So, as someone who I've played the flute for since I was in fourth grade, um, I know what a lot of these things are, or at least I have like kind of like a good guess at what they could mean if they're very specific to the violin. Um, but a reader who has no idea really about any instruments might not know some of those words. Um, so it might be something you want to consider, maybe adding in some definitions for some of those very specific words. If you read through this, this was one of the kind of helpful hints that she gave in here was if you read through your piece, if there's words that if you were not a musician you wouldn't know, those might be words you want to make sure you give a little definition for or any explanation. But great job using those words. You definitely want to keep those words in there. They're very important for informational pieces. Um, and then right here, as your reader, I really appreciate that you made the distinction between what makes it difficult, because just like you saying here, a tuba might be difficult because of the breathing and the lifting, so the physical aspects. Um, and others are hard, maybe more mentally, to try to master the instrument. And so I like that you made that distinction there. It's really helpful as the reader before going into this, into your topic a little deeper. It's very helpful that you set those apart, and it really works well. Right here, I want to, oh, what was I going to say? Sorry. I was going to tell you that when I was in school, when I first went to try to figure out which instrument I wanted to play, they did the same thing. They're giving me all these different instruments, and the flute was the one that I made the best sound with, so they said, all right, you're going to play the flute. And so that's funny that for people who played music who had a similar experience, that will be a very interesting part for them to read because I'm sure they can associate with that. In these next few paragraphs, I think it would be really cool if you added some transition words in here, especially because you're kind of giving them a picture, you're kind of telling them a little story within your informational piece. And so that would be a great place to use some transition words. A different classmate of mine made a video about that this week if you wanted to take a look at that. Um, and then here for your conclusion, it was really well written. It draws the reader back to why it's worth it to try an instrument, even though you went through a lot of reasons why it was hard. You also kind of ended it and you said, but it is really worth it. It will make you stronger, it will make you more confident if you keep practicing and you really give it your best. So that was a great job there with your conclusion. Let's take a look at your next one. Sorry, there we go. Again, right away with this hook, it is incredible. Take a moment right now and look down at your palms. Like, I don't know what's going to keep the reader engaged, but that is certainly it. Right away, I was like, okay. I was like, do you see little lines? Yep. And so right immediately, I'm very engaged in your writing. And I want to keep reading because I want to know, why am I looking at my hands? So I think, again, like, your introductions and like your hooks have been so well written, and they really help overall with your piece to draw the reader in right from the beginning. And then we talked about this a little bit last week, but I wanted to show you a little more. So Adobe Spark is an option for writing your informational piece in a totally digital, a little bit different format. So Adobe Spark, you can do videos, you can do slides, you can do something like I did for mine. So I did How to Survive a Family Vacation. And I have my writing kind of broken up by paragraphs, but I also have pictures of my family and I on different vacations throughout the last couple of years, and what we've done to like survive those family vacations. And so that's another kind of option that Adobe Spark has, where you're scrolling and pictures come up and you can link things in. But I think that Adobe Spark would be an awesome tool for you to consider for your writing, especially right here. I was following along with you and I'm like, okay, that's the heart line, that's this one, that's this one, that's the headline and your lifeline. But let me show you. I did also just share this document with you. So if you found other pictures that you wanted to just kind of keep in one place, you'd be able to find them easily. So I just named it Pictures to Consider. I shared it with you so you can edit it if you wanted to add or delete. But these were just some that I found with a quick search that might help your reader kind of understand what could be difficult. So I played the flute, so this was one of the things that I found difficult, was how your hands have to be placed on the flute, that they're not the same way, that this one has to be, like, it's just so interesting. And so, like, what fingers have to hit what keys, because that's very specific. And I thought that that would be a cool kind of graphic to show your reader, for one reason maybe why the flute is a difficult instrument. You also talked about the tuba, and this picture is kind of interesting because it shows like it's a big instrument. There's a very different kind of way that you have to use your mouth to make the sound, as opposed to what people might be used to with other instruments. And then there's a little bit of how your fingers have to be lined up. So that's an interesting image. And then for your second piece, let me get some water. I was thinking this would be like an interesting piece because it says it's like the basics. And it talks about those 3 that you mentioned, and it gives you 2 other ones. And so those are just some options, but if you did something like this and you're scrolling through and you have a picture that's going along with what you're writing, I feel like that could really help your reader connect with your both of your pieces, but especially the one with the palms, to show what the lines look like would really give your reader a lot more information about what it looks like on their palm, especially because everyone's look like slightly different like that. It's cool to see some distinctions. And then again, your conclusion is really strong. I like this kind of play on words here, that your life is not on your hands but in your hands. It really gives your reader a positive end note, and helps them be like, oh, okay, you know what, that is true. Even though this might say this, my life is still in my hands and I can still make a difference. And so I think that was a really great way to end it. As a reader, it kind of makes you happy right at the end, and I think that was very effective. I did also want to show you, under this Adobe Spark one, I forgot to show you, there's another video about how to use Adobe Spark because there's a lot of options on there. It can be a little bit overwhelming, but my classmate did a really nice job kind of walking through how to make that and why Adobe Spark is so helpful of a tool. And really quick, so I did link those there, but I did also want to show you that on our Google Classroom, I'm sure you've seen it because you have to kind of see it to get to the other parts, but there is also these lessons on here. And so the lessons that I pointed out to you for this week were the one about transitions, if you wanted to watch that. There's also an activity you can try. The one about using definitions to strengthen your writing. And this is one that's especially helpful, I think, how to use Adobe Spark. And she has her Google slides attached there too in case you don't want to watch the whole video. So those are just some options. It was really great reading your work again this week. You're doing very well with this online writing workshop, and I'm excited to see what you do for your revision. So I hope you have a great week, and I will see you again next week. Bye.